Hello, everybody. It is your mostest, bestest, favoritist host ever. Hope you guys are still doing well, still surviving, still finding ways to enjoy your social distancing and whatnot. I am just going to introduce this episode real quick and we'll get on with it. First off, I have to say I'm so pumped how all the treatment providers in Western New York, how they have completely adjusted to the swinging things. People are still getting services. People who aren't making the money to pay for their services are getting help, and they are doing such an awesome job. And Spectrum Health and Human Services is no exception. And I sit down with the associate CEO, and I guess we sit down in separate rooms and places, but I sit down and we have an awesome discussion on how Spectrum Health has adapted and done their part in helping people and still bringing amazing services to people who need it. So I'm going to get this episode going. This is really probably one of my first remote episodes. I think I've had one or two in the past, but I hate doing it. The perfectionist in me never wants it just because of sound quality purposes, and if somebody doesn't have a mic and they don't have this or that as far as equipment goes, it sounds even worse. And I was been reluctant to do this, but it has to be done. I think the information and the content getting out there is so much more important than the actual sound quality. So it's not my style. You guys know that who listen to me frequently, but this is worth a listen. Please listen to it and hear of all the things Spectrum Health and Human Services has done to adapt and evolve with these times. Here is the associate CEO from Spectrum Health and Human Services. Hope you guys enjoy. And I have 3 other podcasts currently that I am editing, so there's plenty to come. All right, guys. Much love. Peace. That's good. Are you working from home as well on everything?
Well, I've been working in administration office usually for at least half of the day because we have some office support and IT people that come in. So I usually go in for a few hours. I'm still there now. I'm going to make sure everything's, we get the mail and all the other stuff that has to happen. And then everybody pretty much works remotely. All of our sites except for 1280 and Wyoming County are all working from home.
From home, huh?
So, yeah. How about you guys? How are you doing?
Good. Yeah, things are... they're going good. I got some podcasts. I don't know if you know the company CCSI.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, they must have heard the podcast I've been doing with you guys at Spectrum, and they reached out to me and want me to do some podcasts, kind of like episodes for them as well. Cool. So that was kind of cool. Yeah. It's always nice when people reach out to you for work, and surprisingly, they just did it. She reached out to me months ago. And I sent her a quote over, and I figured they weren't very interested in it or whatever. But then she just emailed me last week, and I just signed a little contract with them to get going on that. So that was cool. Yeah. So there's some work happening.
Yeah, they do. They do a lot of different trainings and sponsor different things, and they handle a lot of different stuff. So
yeah, that's what she was saying. So I was pretty excited about that, especially. All my video projects right now are on hold, which is kind of frustrating because for me, which I completely understand why, but it's this is the perfect time to be putting stuff out like that,
right?
Video and audio stuff, because that's all people can really do. Yeah. So that's why I was happy too that Bonnie mentioned about starting to do some of these, because I think it's important to get it out there and. Let people know what's going on, especially with mental health and everything that's happening. There's a lot of craziness going on.
Yeah. And actually we have had quite a few number of our people that, individuals that serve our clients that actually are tested positive or have family members that are, because we track it, and probably over 50 people that have been affected, either positive or their family. So it's nuts. Definitely affected. Plus just the stress and anxiety and, just managing so many different things for people that is really, I think the mental part is really challenging, as well as the addiction issues.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously it's so related as well, but it is, I mean, I've had so many people. I've had a couple of good friends that have relapsed. I've had so many people reach out to me and just ask me just to talk, and because so many people are struggling. I mean, I think so much of it does go back to what I've always talked about from, the beginning of my getting out is it's so much more than just stop using. It's really becoming comfortable with who you are and being okay to be with yourself and all of that. And I think so many
Mm-hmm.
people kind of just focus on the, all right, I'm not going to use a substance and that's it and I'm good. And they'll go
Mm-hmm.
to AA groups every day and hang out with people all the time or watch Netflix or whatever it is, and they don't work on nothing else. And then something like this happens and they're kind of like back to square one almost.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It can
So,
happen easily, I think, especially when you have your routine and your supports and things kind of
mm-hmm.
pulled out from under you.
Yeah, that's for sure. But yeah, so things are going well. Like I said, I think I have more people around me, so it's not like I've been
Mm-hmm.
less alone than I normally am when everybody's at work. So there's all that happening. But I guess, yeah, I wanted to talk with you a lot about just how you guys and gals at Spectrum have really adjusted,
Mm-hmm.
because that's a sudden change with now nobody can really go anywhere and they're all stuck at home. And obviously
Mm-hmm.
people need to get mental health. And I know telehealth is kind of, I feel like it's slowly been coming into the mix to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, were you guys like prepared at all before this? Or
Well,
was it all kind of like you had to adapt right away with nothing in plan?
yeah, so I think we were all working in that direction, and we had some regulatory changes in the last year or so that was allowing us to do more telemedicine, telehealth,
Mhm.
but we really hadn't quite gotten there yet. We had some equipment and we had tested it out, but we really hadn't rolled it out completely. So luckily, we had a lot of updated IT infrastructure and a lot of laptops and mobile technology available. So, really, in the first week that we started down this path, we had to turn the entire organization into a virtual operation. So, um, and quite honestly, I have to say I was impressed um, in the end of it how well we actually did. And I think just everybody stepped up to the plate, whether it's our IT staff, the support staff, the clinical staff, all the administrative, and then mostly all of our clients and people that we serve in the community, that, it just kind of happened. And really, we've done pretty well of staying in touch with almost everybody that we work with, which and taking on new people and helping new people as well. But it was a big lift for us, I think. But luckily, we had more of the things in place than I think we realized that allowed us to do it. I think the first shock of it all was kind of hard, not to mention that a lot of our staff were home with their own kids and families and challenges that they had to manage at the same
Mhm.
time that they're trying to manage this new kind of way of working.
Yeah, well,
So,
that's what Bonnie was saying. She was like, "I got all the kids home. I'm ready to
mhm.
scream right now."
Yeah. Yeah. So, I think that we kept open an office in Wyoming County. We have a few people there a day, and we kept office at 1280 Main Street open. And our ACT teams still have people on site both in Cattaraugus County, Niagara County, and Erie County. And we have a group of staff, mostly nurses and some clinicians, that are doing community visits still, providing medications, seeing high risk people. Our housing program staff are still out there trying to get people housing and deal with all of the challenge that people have trying to live on their own right now. So we have a good number of people any given day that are out there. Luckily, we've had the proper PPE available for them. But so, well, there's all the people that have adapted at home doing their work. Then there's the whole other group of people that are still out there on the front lines, doing what they need to do, it's been great, really, in terms of the people willing to step up to the plate and just do what it takes to take care of what people need.
Yeah, because there's still, like you mentioned, those people out there who need to come
Mm-hmm.
see a doctor, who
Right.
need to find living spaces. And
Mm-hmm.
was there any adjustment in that area as far as like, did you have to put it to one certain location?
Yeah, so what we did is we centralized everything in Erie County out of our 1280 Main Street location, and
Okay.
our directors and leadership rotate a week on, a week off, and then there's staff that rotate as well as nurses, and so we were able to put that in place, and then the same thing with the ACT teams; they're on site, but a lot of the individuals that we work with we provide medications and injection, medications by shots that people need. We provide a lot of supports and those kind of things. So that stuff really had to go on. It wasn't something you
Mhm.
could just choose not to do. We also provide medication assisted treatment for addiction, and that's something you want to continue to do at a time when people really need that
Need
support
it.
as well. So I think that was our biggest priority, was getting all of that in place. And really in the beginning, it was trying to make sure we also had the proper protective equipment that people needed, because it was hard to come by, the masks and all of the things. And luckily we were able to get what we needed with the help from Erie County Department of Health and the Office of Mental Health were actually helpful for us to get some of those things. So I think one of the bigger challenges too has been our housing program. We started getting people released out of jails and out of prison, which is good and bad. You're taking people from this controlled environment, and yes, it might be safer in a lot of ways, but you're putting them into a community where there's very little support, a place they've never lived, and you're trying to do this as remotely as possible from an office if you can, which is not really possible. And then, trying to set up everything for those individuals to come out of, confinement. And so that has been probably one of the bigger challenges that our staff have had, and had the most concerns for those individuals trying to be in the community. But so far it's worked out. They've done a great job doing that. As you probably have seen, there's been a lot of advocacy to move people out of jails and prisons if possible.
Yeah, no, I have
such a
seen
high
that.
risk of contracting COVID-19 while you're in a facility like that. So, and we do have a lot of those contracts both in Monroe County and Rochester, as well as Erie County, where we are the direct referring person for people coming out of that have been in confinement and also under the care of OMH, the Office of Mental Health. So,
Okay.
so all those kind of things we've done. That's in addition to just helping everyday kind of depression, anxiety, and mood disorders and different things that people are challenged with. A lot of
How
our
have they been? Go ahead.
I was just saying, our nurse practitioners and doctors are all working remotely. So we had one on site at 1280 Main Street, and then the rest are working remote. And that's worked out quite well, actually.
So as far as like meeting people about health issues in general, or?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have both, actually. We've had both a family nurse practitioner as well as our psychiatrist and our psychiatric nurse practitioners. I think that's gone better. We were allowed to do telephonic as well as video.
Mm-hmm.
So, telemedicine, a lot of what you can get on the platforms is, it's a video, use either, Zoom or FaceTime. And, sometimes electronic health records have it built in. Ours didn't quite yet. The new one we're going to roll out soon will. But they also allowed us to provide services by talking to people on the phone, and then documenting what you did and kind of making sure you covered what you would have done, even if you were meeting face to face with a person. So that was really helpful and necessary, because a lot of people we have don't really have devices that necessarily would easily be able to, load a Zoom app and figure all that out. So
yeah, I was going to ask you about the people who don't really have the access to that. So you had to go the old-fashioned way, and
talking
use
on a phone.
An actual phone.
And some people actually talked more and sort of were more comfortable and could actually do it more consistently than having to find their way to an office. So I think we're learning a lot about maybe there's better ways to do what we do, and maybe there's better ways to meet people where they're at. And we're hoping that the regulatory bodies and people kind of pay attention to that too afterwards. Like, what's the best way to just help people and reach them?
Yeah, that's interesting, because I guess you can, as you're kind of on the phone, even like what we're doing now, I can't see you. I mean, It is on the internet, but it's essentially like a phone call. And
Right.
I guess you're kind of you almost feel a little more, I don't want to say protected. I don't feel like that's the right word, but like you don't have to, you're not fully there in a sense.
Yeah,
And
right.
people are probably more likely to open up. That is very interesting to think about.
And that is exactly some of the feedback that a lot of our staff have given us, is that they've been surprised at how some people that might have been less likely to talk with them or to, kind of share things, were doing more of it. So it was that's been a real interesting kind of twist to things, I think, for a lot of us. And, video, being able to see a person is also still very helpful. I mean, even for our staff, we've been functioning by doing team meetings within Microsoft. Office 365 has a feature that you can use called Teams, or Zoom meetings. So, it's been a whole kind of learning curve for all of us to do that. But it actually helps to be able to see people sometimes in a group when you're doing a meeting than trying to all talk on a conference call. So
yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah, I mean, because I'm a person who likes the eye contact and the face to face. Hence why I love doing that's one of the main reasons why I love going places and sitting down in people's offices and doing the
Mm-hmm.
podcast. I can definitely see that with a lot of people,
Mm-hmm.
especially when they're talking about their mental health and things that
Mm-hmm.
could potentially produce shame. It probably feels more comfortable sometimes just to be on the phone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's been interesting. We've also have the ability for a team to go out and provide the virtual kind of platforms for somebody. If one of the doctors or nurse practitioners, somebody feels like they need a more comprehensive picture of that person before they can make a diagnosis or provide medications, which, is understandable because there's a lot you get from seeing a person and getting a sense of what's going on with them. So especially in our business, I mean, that's mostly what you're doing.
Definitely.
So that's been, helpful too. But I think that we saw a little bit of a drop off in people reaching out for services. And so we've done a lot of marketing and a lot of kind of public education and offering some free services through our social media, just hoping to engage people to know there is help out there if you need it.
Yeah, it's crazy. I was just reading an article today, and it still says like 80% of people who struggle with mental health will not reach out for help because of stigma still. I mean, it is
really, oh my gosh, wow.
It is dumbfounding, which I mean, I didn't, granted, take that with a grain of salt. I didn't really research
It's probably true.
the source, but it's probably still super high. And it's just still, I mean, at the same time, it motivates me to keep doing what I'm doing.
Right.
But it's still like, oh my gosh, like,
Mm-hmm.
and I think a lot of weight comes with too. When you medicalize something, it also kind of keeps it in a stigma, and that's kind of tough too. It's like you want to get more awareness out there. It's such a catch-22 with it. It really is. But
it is.
You said you have. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, but I have seen more, from the government kind of things and political things, more kind of a nod kind of to the mental health stuff, sort of including that when they're talking about what you might need to pay attention to is your mental health, or so I think there has been a little more of an effort that we might have seen in past kind of major trauma events about what's happening to people's mental health. And I think a little bit different, you could kind of call this kind of a living through a trauma, right? Like it's kind of a traumatic experience.
Absolutely.
And I think we're all sort of in it together, which might help a little bit, because I think then people feel like it's not just them, everybody is sort of going through
struggling
something, so maybe just realizing that reaching out and just having a discussion or just having a conversation or hearing how somebody else is feeling or what they might do to cope can make you feel better.
And I mean, it could be too the fact that maybe the number isn't growing, just like you said, more people are coming out and talking about it now, that you're feeling like, okay, everybody is going through this isolation, is going through this period where they can't go out to work, they have to stay home. And I think that can prove to be, I always say, the best way to end stigma is for people to keep talking about it and sharing their stories of success and gratitude and everything else. I feel like this has caused more people to do that, which in return is getting more awareness out there and kind of really bashing the sign that weakness is, or mental health is weakness when you struggle with it. So
I don't know if you heard that we started also this community of caring, and it's something Julie Gutowski sort of had the idea. I think you might have met Julie before.
Oh, yeah.
She thought, let's put something together that would be free, that could be open to our staff, to family members, to the community, to our clients, to anybody. And it has its own website, and it's also posted on social media. And it's like free meditation, some, free Zumba classes, free yoga, a craft class. And so there's a schedule every day of things, and then a couple of lunchtime chats where people can log on if they want to and just talk to people. And it's in about the second or third week of rolling it out, just to get the kind of kinks worked out. And we've had a lot of involvement, and people who have said, wow, that was really helpful for 30 minutes to just do something entirely different. And it's something we're kind of doing for ourselves as well as the community. So it might be interesting if you look it up. It's under Spectrum Community Caring.
Spectrum Community Caring. Yeah. So tell me more. So you started this, and it just kind of, you're doing all sorts of stuff from meditation to...
Yeah. So just a daily meditation time. We just actually recruited our staff. So there's some people who run yoga studios, and they're willing to do a free online class. Some people that like to do craft things. So they said, well, I'll do a craft and everybody can follow along. And some kind of parenting, coping skill kind of things. And so we're sort of building on it now to see what else we might want to do. And then we're also trying to record some of them, which maybe you could come in handy there. we're trying to record some of them and then have them available in kind of a library. We did build our own kind of webpage for it, but if you go to Spectrum, you can find Community of Caring, and we've posted it on our social media. But we're just thinking, it's just another way to get the word out there and to get support to people. So I think it's so far, or at least our staff have given us a lot of good feedback about it, and a lot of individuals that are going to use it. So it's really simple. Click on, there you go. You don't have to think about it or do too much. So.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, we'll have to talk more about that.
Yeah,
that's
Julie
really,
would be a great one to talk about it. And she's recruited a lot of staff that we didn't even know, talents that people had, interests they had beyond, their day-to-day
awesome.
job. And they're like, oh yeah, I can do that. Oh yeah, I'll do that. And we're like, wow. And in this time, I think it helps people to feel better just to help somebody else in a different way than you normally do. You're reaching out and doing something. When you feel helpless sometimes, like there's nothing you can do, but maybe there is,
Yeah, it totally does. I said that I did a little video thing where I was just kind of talking about people just being comfortable reaching out for help. Like, it's okay. And I really mentioned, I hit it home, like over the last 5-6 weeks, however long we've been doing this, 5-6 people have reached out to me, and it makes me feel great. It makes me feel like I'm not just sitting here in front of a computer all day I'm not doing nothing, but you know what I mean? Not really making much of a difference. But when I can sit down and take time to talk with somebody and just be there to listen empathically, it's like it makes me feel so much better as a human being, as an individual. And that's why I always try to tell people it's okay to reach out for help, because you know what, you're actually helping that person reaching out for help half the time.
Yeah, I think it's really true. Yeah.
But yeah, I'll definitely have to get in touch with Julie. I think that would be an awesome
that would be
episode
a great one
to really talk about that, all of that, what's going on too, as well, because that's great. I mean, I think sometimes that's all people need, is to sit down, know somebody's really there on the other side, listening and doing something with you, whether it's a craft or meditate, whatever it is, even if it's just like you said, you have that lunchtime talk where you can all just kind of get together. And I think that can make a huge difference in somebody's life, and it's simple.
I know, like even in my own family, my mother's birthday and was a couple weeks ago, and we've been she's 86, so we've been trying not to go around her too much and keeping her in her house, and just getting groceries and things. And we all work in the public, a lot of us, so it's not that safe to do that. So, but we all went over and stood outside in the rain, and then had a Zoom family meeting for all the people that live across the country, and we were all on Zoom at the same time.
That is awesome.
And it was like, you were just like the connection, you thought, wow, you take it for granted sometimes, but it was sort of a cool thing to do. So
yeah, you really do take it for granted until it's not there anymore.
Yeah. I think the other thing we've been talking about is what's the new normal going to be, because we don't really see us going back to what we thought our life was for a while. I mean, it seems like this is not going to go away overnight. So, as soon as we got this in place, now we're sort of thinking about, okay, well, what's it going to look like, in another month? What's it going to look like in October? What if it comes back in the fall and we have to kind of wrap back up? What are we going to? So we're sort of also trying to stay one step ahead and thinking, okay, what are the things that are working? What isn't working? How can we keep providing what we're doing? And what's the next step that we could think about? Because really, quite honestly, we might have done disaster planning in the past, and there was requirements to do that, but none of them included a pandemic.
No, they did not.
I think a lot of us were taken by surprise by what that really means.
Yeah, I know. It was something that just came. Well, you know what? I don't think it really came out of left field. The more I've kind of looked into it, there's, people who have been kind of talking about that this is what could really end up. If this, not that it's not serious, but if it was something really bad, like really, really bad, I guess I don't want to downplay what's happening because it's really crappy. But
right,
like if it was killing a lot more people, I mean, half the world's population would have been wiped out.
Right.
At this point, and we weren't prepared at all for anything like this.
No, it doesn't really sound like we were really at all. Which I think, to me, I don't know that, especially living in, I don't know, I guess you grow up in the United States thinking there's a plan, or we're always going to find our way out of it easily or something, and it doesn't seem that way this time. So I think it's...
No, not at all. I also thought it was interesting, which is kind of a complete side note here, but interesting that the countries who are run by women have dealt the best with this.
Right.
Yeah, that was kind of an eye opener.
Eye opener. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we need more women leaders is what we need.
Some of us could say, well, yeah, we could have told you that.
Yeah. Oh, I know. Yeah, it was very interesting. I'm trying to think. It was like Germany. I
Yeah,
want to say
Finland.
Denmark
Yeah,
and Finland,
Denmark,
maybe.
Finland.
Yeah.
Yeah, there were like 6 or 8 or something like that that were like, huh,
The least
interesting.
hurt by this, and they were all run by
Yeah.
women. Yeah, it was very interesting to me.
Well, I think you have to have compassion, and you have to. Right now, I'm not saying that men don't have compassion; they do, but I'm just saying that maybe that was the biggest thing for a lot of those individuals that were kind of highlighted. The women leaders were that was kind of their first priority. It seemed
Hmm.
was the people and you were going through. So
Well, think about every man when they get hurt or sick. It's like, just tough it up.
tough it up, right?
Suck it up. Come on, you're
Right.
fine.
Right. And quite honestly, that doesn't really work so well right now. I mean, you got to suck it up a little, but then there's the end of the day where you got to go, okay, this is not easy.
Yep. No, exactly. And
So.
yeah, and you care for other people. That's
Mhm.
the biggest thing too. Like so many young people are going out and about saying, "Well, I'll be fine," but I mean, just ignorant to the fact that you could hurt other people if you're carrying it and you're asymptomatic or whatever it is. And it's some people are just clueless.
Mhm. Yeah.
I was in the grocery store the other day and I could see, you got to stay away from the workers and everything else. And this one customer came up to the worker, like right by him. And she's like, "Sir, you have to step back 6 feet away." And he's like, "Even with you," as if she's not a human being.
Right.
I was like, "Oh my
Right.
gosh."
Yeah.
It
Right.
worries me
Yeah,
sometimes.
I find going to the grocery store highly traumatic and anxiety producing. You've got a mask on, and you don't even know who's there, and you're trying to clean your cart, and I mean, like, oh my gosh, I'm like, get me
Oh,
out of
it's
here.
weird. Yeah.
It's just so weird. So I think that's the other thing is that, we're always in our business used to worrying about the people that we work with. And, we have a lot of high risk situations and we're always trying to do that. But I think we've also been worrying about our own staff as well as ourselves. Like, so you really
Hmm.
have to kind of do that even more than usual. I mean, yes, in the past you would say staff wellness, blah, blah, blah. But right now, you really want to know, are you okay? Are people okay? It's hard to be out there doing for other people if you're not also feeling okay yourself. So, you know,
Absolutely.
I think there's people that have had challenges with childcare. Well, okay, let's see what we can do to help you be able to keep your job and take care of your family. It's okay. We'll figure that out. So,
Yeah. What have you guys had to do as far as that?
yeah.
Like, how have you
So,
adjusted with your employees in it?
yeah, first of all, we've really pretty much given everybody a laptop, and if they didn't have a device at home, because not everybody had work laptops because they all had offices, right? So,
Hmm.
so we were pretty much able to do that plus phones, and set that up for them and get people hooked in to be able to work from home. All of our support staff that were usually running our front offices and all this stuff. Really, we've not had to lay off one person. And we've keep finding things for people to do, even that maybe wouldn't have been the normal thing you were doing. But
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
yeah, and we've also been able to for people. Okay, well, maybe you need to not work for these 4 hours during the day, but maybe you can work in the evening when your kids are doing something else or going to bed. Or
So you've adjusted the
different.
hours too
Yeah,
that people
yeah.
can do
Or maybe
stuff.
it's a task that is easier to do than having to be on the phone doing other things. So we've really worked with people to do that because yes, maybe there's unemployment, but then if you don't have your job, you don't have your health insurance, and if you don't have your health
Hmm.
insurance, then I mean, so there's a lot of domino effects to people losing a job or being furloughed even. So we've been really lucky in that way, I think, in terms of that, and we still are actually looking to try to recruit and hire some positions that we've been needing to fill. And we actually did a virtual kind of orientation for staff, which was
Oh,
sort of
that's
an
good. Yeah.
interesting experience. But you'd be surprised what you can do when you have to come up with with things. So
Yeah. How have you, speaking of kind of like financial situations, how have you dealt and like
mhm.
adapted with people who use your services who have lost their jobs and had
Mhm.
to pay co-pays and stuff like that? Have you guys had to make a lot of adjustments in that area as well?
I think one of the things that was fortunate is that the insurance companies, and this was kind of a set thing with through New York State and some on the federal level, but was the insurance companies locally all waived co-pays and deductibles during this period of time for people that have health insurance.
Okay.
So that was a big plus for people. And for people who have Medicare and Medicaid, allowing us to bill for services that weren't normally covered. So that was a big plus. Anybody who doesn't, we haven't been charging anybody anything at this point in time. So, we're just providing the services, and if we can bill for it, we're bill for it. And if we can't, then we're just working with people to get them through this time. So financially, we're stable. And we did apply for one of the PPP loans, the Payroll Protection Program loans, and we did get accepted for that. So we're feel fortunate for that. As non-for-profits don't have huge stockpiles of money sitting around like most people that run small businesses don't. So we're hopeful that that will allow us, if we see a dip in things, or if we don't get, which we have seen a dip in some of the money that we normally would be taking in. Our expenses haven't gone down, but so that we'll be able to offset that and make it through without jeopardizing services or people's employment. So, but we are monitoring it closely, and I think most of us feel really fortunate that we're in the situation that we're in right now, that we're able to do what we want to do and help people, but also keep all of our staff employed.
That is good to hear. I know, it's tough times for a lot of businesses and companies, and that has been some of the biggest challenges. I think even like restaurants and it's not easy to have a small business or your own business anywhere in this country, but let alone right now.
My son works in a restaurant business, and he was laid off the first week, and he got unemployment, but he'd rather be back at work. So
it's tough. It's definitely been an adjustment, even with the masks and stuff going in, like you said, to the grocery store, or the gas station. Even though kind of what's going on, it's still kind of it's like out of a sci-fi movie or something.
I know you sort of know you're kind of adjusted to a weird reality when it doesn't seem that odd anymore. But I know the first few weeks, a lot of us would run around going, you feel like you're living in a bad movie, and like you just want to wake up out of a bad dream or something. Then all of a sudden it goes from that to like, oh, okay, this is just life, So
it's becoming normalcy. That's for sure.
So I guess it is sort of kind of goes to how adaptable we can be if we need to, which I guess is a skill you need for a lot of things in life. So it can be a strength, right? So,
well, especially in the mental health world, that's for sure.
I think we've also seen a lot of concerns about kids. I think it's very challenging for kids and teenagers to understand what's going on, and things they've had to lose. And like we have this thing, like it doesn't matter what it is, you have a right to feel how you feel. Maybe you got a job and a roof over your head, and you're healthy and you're not worried about it, but you can't you missed out on this or that, you're not going to have a prom, maybe you're not going to have a graduation. Those things matter to you at that point in time. So
to a lot of people,
you got it. It might not seem that important to somebody else, but it is important to whatever's important to you at that time, and it's a loss. It is what it is, so it's better to just kind of acknowledge that and support people through that. I've heard that from a lot of our staff, well, this was, we had all this planned, and a wedding, they're not, there's all kinds of things. So you just have to put all that aside, okay, well.
Oh, so much of it. Yeah. Even my girlfriend's daughter had a big soccer tournament, and there was going to be college scouts there, and that all got and
that might not seem like that important, but that's a big deal to her, But, I'm sure we'll all get through it, and people have lived through worse things, I think, in life. So, that's my kicking in mode where I just go, okay, well,
we got this. Yeah,
we got this.
And I think, what, and it's only going to keep us prepared. And it is interesting. I am curious to see how much of the telehealth and all of that just keeps going after things kind of go back to, in quotes, normal.
And I think a lot of us are saying, well, the new normal isn't going to be what we thought. And I think it will force changes, because I think in some ways, I always used to say sometimes the system was built for the providers and the regulatory people, not necessarily for the people that you're trying to help. And for the first time, I have to admit, the one thing I have felt positive about, I feel like a lot has been done to take away those barriers and those kinds of things that made it impossible for us to do things we might have wanted to do. And, you would hope that if in the end of all this, you don't have to go back to some of that was kind of not really serving really what you're trying to do, but just serving other things. I'm certainly going to fight for that myself, because I think that if you don't feel like getting out of bed too much and you're depressed and you're having all this anxiety, but you got to find a way to get yourself to a place, whether it's by bus or a cab or somebody taking you or walking. And, then you got to go there and you got to wait and it's only a certain limited time. And, maybe that isn't really doing what people needed to begin with. So I don't know. I think that you would hope there's things that we can all learn from all of this. Really, that's, I think, what we're hoping for. So I think a lot of us in healthcare, if you take regular physical healthcare, they're going through the same thing. People don't want to come in. They don't want to risk their safety. And, so they're having to see, virtual visits and, maybe it's okay.
Yeah, I'm wondering like if this will put a push on certain technology where doctors can like do your temperature, do certain tests from afar. I wonder how that's gonna kind of play out. Obviously, that would be farther down the road as far as, but I'm wondering. I'm assuming it's gonna kick stuff into gear to, well, can we test for this,
Right.
the flu or whatever from
remotely
via telehealth?
somehow,
Yeah.
right? Well, because we're going to be planning now. What if this happens again? What if this happens? And what are you going to do to keep the world going and your world as you know it? What are you going to do? So I think if we all would have thought that anything like this would have happened, we would have been planning a whole lot differently about how we would make that transition. A bad storm for a couple of days is not such a big deal now.
No, no, it is not. Yeah. So it's been interesting to see how everything's kind of adjusting. And I'm very curious to see what things will be like after things, again, in quotes, go back to normal.
I mean, we have been concerned too about the whole addiction piece because you have seen the news that in Erie and Niagara County, at least, the overdose deaths have increased during this time. Yeah, which is really unfortunate because we had begun to see progress, right, in that way. But we just were able to bring on another provider that does medication-assisted treatment remotely. We'll be doing more of it remotely if we can help people during this interim. That would be helpful for, which sometimes is what you need just to get you through, keep you alive.
So how would that work if, like, say you had a 30-day Suboxone script?
Yeah, so what we would do is we would do a video visit, and if you don't have the ability to do that, we have a team it would come to your house with a nurse and stuff, and we actually can take bloods ourselves. Our nursing staff do that and could get the labs then sent, and then we can get the script filled from our pharmacy that we're working with, do a telehealth visit, monitor that, and then we've also started doing some virtual and telephonic groups, and we've had a lot of interest from our clients because that's one of the things we hadn't been doing until just recently. We hadn't figured out a way to do that well. So we could link all that up, and we're doing that now. We had people on Vivitrol, go in the community, give them the shot, monitor and provide support. So I think there's others besides us that have been trying to keep this in place and do it, but a lot of people don't know about those resources, So I don't know. Hopefully people can find the way to get the help they need. That's why we've been trying to, make it as easy as possible if somebody calls us to get help.
Yeah. So how many like nurses and like stuff do you have as far as people who are out on the road?
So I'd say on a given day, we have about 30, 40 people that are out in different parts of Erie and the other counties. We have about 25 nurses, and then the others are clinical staff. And every day, I'd say there's probably 25, 30 people that we're giving medications, delivering them, doing kind of checks on them and things like that. And then on site, a few people, but we've tried not to do too much of that just to limit it for everybody. We made a determination that it was probably safer for our staff and for people in the community to actually go to them than it was to have them find their way to us.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
As long as you can, as your staff is trained and knows how to wear the proper PPE and do what they need to do, you should be as safe as anybody, maybe safer than the average person walking in the community someplace, right? So.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that makes sense because you can monitor the people who are going out on the streets a lot better than you can monitor where somebody who's coming to you has been.
Exactly, right. So that's been, I think, a big plus for what we were able to provide for people.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, you guys are really trucking along with everything.
I've been really impressed with, not that I always knew I worked with great people, but I've just been even more impressed with, the quality of everything that everybody's been doing and just whatever it takes. And, it's really kind of a great thing to see. You work with people that are going to do what it takes, so.
And yeah, that's what it's all about, and it's exciting to see. And I'm definitely gonna look more into the what is it, the
Yeah, community of caring.
community of
Yeah, Julie
caring. Yes,
Gutowski. She'd love to talk to you about that because she's
yeah, I'm
really
gonna reach out to her. And
has a lot of good ideas about it. And it's really it's so, like I said, so far it's been kind of a lot of people like say, somebody that works here in billing said, oh, my sister hopped onto that yoga class, and we're like, oh, okay.
yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I'll reach out to Julie, and we'll maybe
Yeah,
get
that'd
a
be great.
episode planned with that. And
Mhm.
yeah, I'll touch base with you too on a couple things. I got some
Sure.
ideas that would be awesome to
Yeah, no,
maybe
we'd be great to
get
get the
going.
word out for anything. So,
So
all
awesome.
right.
Well, thank you so much for joining me. This was great.
It
I'm
was great.
hoping the
It's
quality
better to see
sounds
you in
pretty good on
person and
here.
talk to you, but it's
It
okay. It
is.
worked okay.
But that's not too far away. I think we'll get
Yeah,
there. We'll
we'll
get
get
back
there.
to it.
Okay.
And
All
I will
right.
stay in touch, Cindy. Thank you
Okay.
very much.
Thanks, Sean. Stay
After
well.
this, yeah, you too. After this, you hit stop record. Just leave your browser open for a minute because I think it
Okay.
uploads.
Okay, that's what they
Don't
said.
just close it right away. Yeah.
Okay. Perfect.
All right.
I'll do
Awesome.
that.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.